Hi, Sonny.
How you doing? It's good to be here.
Thanks for being at Rockpalast. Welcome.
It's great to be here.
What was the starting point of your fascination with music?
Well, I think, the fact that my older brother was discovering music and bringing that into the house. That's the earliest memories I have. I was a little bitty kid. And then hearing the guitar for the first time just seemed like magic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what fired me up from the beginning. And I was originally, my family was living in Mississippi, so Elvis Presley was coming out at the time, and then that was all the rage, and he'd buy the 45s and bring them in. And when Elvis did the first Ed Sullivan show, and actually the visual, and all that, it was Scotty Moore on guitar, and I was checking that out. So that was
So you were addicted.
really cool. Oh, yeah.
But you started to play trumpet, I think, and then you switched to guitar.
Yeah, the trumpet was my first instrument, that real instrument that I had, but guitar was always my first love, so to speak, and that was another 3 years later. My first guitar when I was 13 years old.
And when did you know that your talents were special, that you could achieve more than most other musicians do?
Well, I'm still working on that. I became very aware early on that this is what I wanted to do. I mean, even as a kid, and I actually kept playing trumpet through school. It was my academic instrument. So what was great about that was I had exposure to classical music, jazz, and also in terms of thinking how you conceptualize playing music with dynamics, and I don't think I would have gotten all that otherwise. So by the time I began playing the guitar, I was already thinking very differently about the instrument. My approach to it was much more like a wind instrument player.
Mm-hmm.
So that I began to work on my phrasing. I would think like taking a breath, as you would when you're playing a horn or a wind instrument, and it's very different. It's a very different feel and sound. It affects everything. But from that time on, I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I knew that I felt that there was a lot more potential in the guitar than the trumpet for me. I did well with the trumpet, but I just never had the chops like that came with the guitar, and then I quickly realized, that they had a lot more potential. And you're at a party, you can break out a guitar, nobody wants to hear you play your trumpet, So that seemed to be a wiser choice.
Would you say that you're natural?
Yeah, I would, only because I was really self-taught. I mean, it made sense to take lessons because that's what I did, in school with trumpet. But unfortunately, we really didn't have any great teachers at the time, and that bored me into really I stopped playing the guitar for about a month, and then began to pick it up on my own. So and it felt natural to me. It kind of felt like home.
Would you agree that great musicians are born as such rather than made?
Well, I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that. I would say this. I think it's probably both. And I think we always have the choice in our lives as to which path we take. I think there are perhaps leanings in terms of potential, but for value fulfillment, for the thing that fills us the most, that's something everyone has to find for themselves. Some people, it's more than one thing. I've run into that. With me, it was always music, and a lot of it you've got to earn it. I mean, you have to work at it. It's not. Now, I will say this in terms of being a natural. I feel like I really had to work for it in ways that perhaps some that I've run across seem to just fall off the chair as easily as do what they do, and so I think the preparation part of it is huge. You really have to woodshed. But at the same time, you have to be open to where you take that in terms of becoming a musician. you're a guitarist or you're a pianist, you're a trumpet player. Well, that's how you start out, but you want to take that to a much deeper place, and that's about becoming a musician.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you were always influenced by Zydeco. How come?
Well, it was the music in my area. You know, when we moved, my family moved when I was 7 years old from Mississippi to Lafayette, Louisiana. And Lafayette is in the very heart of Cajun and Creole culture. And I didn't have anything else to compare it to, but it sure seemed like we went to another world, you know. And it was actually exciting. And music is a big part of the culture. Music, food, and dance. And that's something very special there that you don't find everywhere. It's very unique.
Your music is obviously full of several ingredients. Are there any limitations on what you allow to seep into your music?
No, I really don't think of it like that anymore. I mean, I understand the want and need for others to categorize things, and to a certain extent, to be a professional musician, there's always a product involved, be that, you know, just a performance or a CD, a disc, vinyl. Well, I'm so glad to see back, and digital downloading, whatever. And so that sort of forces that issue. But I don't think like it anymore. And I love all kinds of music. And that was one of the things I actually got from playing trumpet in orchestra and school band. I had great teachers, and they taught me to listen and to be open to all different kinds of music, because even in the realm of school band, there were so many different composers and types of music within that realm, and I just sort of carried that over into other music forms, and I like anything that's done well.
But with your latest album, that's titled Bound by the Blues, you obviously returned to your blues roots.
Yeah, that was a definite decision, you know. It's something I've been thinking about doing, and it seemed like a good time to do it. And actually, I always look for the surprises in a project, something that I wouldn't have thought of that just, you know, comes out of nowhere seemingly, and is sort of a profound moment. And I didn't know, well, going back to these old songs, you know, the whole thing was, how do you approach that differently? I was actually in a phone conversation with a good friend of mine, great musician, Roy Rogers, and I was going to sit in with he and his band, and we ended up the conversation about playing some Robert Johnson songs, some Elmore James songs, and make it really easy for me to sit in with him. And right before we hung up, he said, "Yeah, but you know, we won't do like Dust My Broom. Everybody's done that." And I said, "Yeah, I guess nobody really needs to, you know, hear us try that or whatever." And I hung up the phone. I guess that's what planted the seed, because I started thinking, well, what would it take to record Dust My Broom? I mean, it's so iconic, and it's been done a trillion times. So that got me to thinking, and I started going back more to the old songs, and I realized how much those songs had changed with me as I evolved as a musician, and I bring new techniques into these songs and so forth. So that was a big moment. You know, it gave me a greater appreciation in a way of looking at different layers over these years of these songs, because I go so far back with them.
To quote Eric Clapton, he has said about you, he's one of the most advanced guitarists in the world and one of the most underappreciated as well. You seem to be like a musician's musician. You played with so many great artists like John Mayall, Mark Knopfler, John Hyatt, Dolly Parton, I think. Don't you think that your career under your own name suffered a bit because you were such a perfect musician's musician?
Well, I don't think so. I've been asked that before. I mean, honestly, I don't know what else I would have done differently, you know, as a solo artist. I mean, because the fact of the matter is, while I was doing all of these sessions and playing with a lot of these other people was awesome, you know, I was still doing my own thing. I was still writing songs. I still had my own bands. You know, we're out playing gigs. I mean, that's been going on. I mean, I started going on the road when I was 20 years old, and I'm 64, so it's nothing new. So I don't really think anything differently would have happened out there would have helped my solo career. In fact, these other connections and hooking up with people like that is only pushed things much more, forward for me. And what I learned working with them is invaluable. I mean, I just always felt like I wanted to get up close and see how they were working, how they approach things, and you always, hope that some of that cosmic dust rubs off on you somehow, and so that was great for me. I wouldn't take any of that back.
Thanks a lot for the interview, Sonny.
My pleasure.